Well, hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to a very special occasion. Well, over the years that we've been working together, I often refer to that special moment when we are able to first present a Rolls-Royce motor cars to one of our clients. Well, today we have an extremely special moment. While we're not presenting a new commission, we are going to be sharing with you a new commission with one of my favorite Rolls-Royce clients. Is an old friend.
Thanks.
I'd like to introduce Jack Boyd-Smith Jr.
Thank you.
Jack has invited us here to do two things. One of them is to take a look at his latest member of his Rolls-Royce family, but also we are here today in the Jack Boyd-Smith collection in Jack's museum. It's an incredible location here. We're in Elkhart, Indiana. Jack has an incredible collection of motor cars. Today, we're going to try and limit it to the Rolls-Royces. Before we get into the details, just a couple pieces of housekeeping. One of them is, as I think you heard from Elizabeth already today, if you could, we are going to take Q&A. We'll take questions throughout, but can you just either put a brief question into the chat room? That will help us. We might be able to do some back and forth as well. And then secondly, when we're done, all of this will be available in the location we gave you, in the file Dropbox that we gave you. So we appreciate your patience, and we are sorry that we all can't be here in person in this incredible museum. It's a great collection of motor cars. Jack, let me just ask you, where did you get the bug on? Where did you start collecting cars?
In 2012, I had a friend that I know passed away, and he had a number of cars that then came for sale. And I had another friend that was the executrix on the estate, and she gave me a call and she said, "Do you have any interest in cars?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "Well, let me send you a list." And on the list, there was a Corniche and there was a Bentley. And I said, "Well, tell me about these cars." And to make a long story short, I bought both of those cars, and that was really the start of it. And then after that, I ended up buying a 31 Cadillac dual cowl Phaeton and really gravitated in towards true classic cars.
It's interesting. We were talking last night, and you said something very interesting. I mean, first of all, what's impressive is you said 2012.
2012,
like
yeah.
8 years.
It is 8 years. I just passed my 8-year anniversary.
And your museum, your collection, compared to all the other collections in the world, is how competitive?
There's a book called The Key, and I think Pablo's on the Zoom call with us. They grade them, and it's a point system, and there's a number of different factors. But we came in at number 136 in the world this last year for the first year.
In 8 years.
In 8 years.
That's impressive. You've clearly got a good eye.
I was very pleased.
When you look at collecting cars, I mean, let me ask you this: is there anything else you collect?
I've collected some art, collect jewelry. I've designed jewelry, like this ring I have on. I designed this ring. It's a very rare ruby. I got naming rights to the ruby. There was a book written about it, so it's special. But this kind of tells a little bit about me and the ability to then design a car. So I've been able to design jewelry and get it down on paper and really visualize what the end product is going to look like. And that translates into my relationship with Rolls-Royce and the design of the car, which is behind us, the 2021 Phantom.
Yes, and when your first Rolls-Royce, you said, was the Corniche.
Right.
Okay. After that, I understand. I think if you look in the background, you'll be able to see some of the other Rolls-Royce motor cars
There's a 2015 Phantom back there that I designed and bespoke from the ground up, and we put walnut in the car, and it's the dark gray exterior with the tan leather interior.
And what do you appreciate about the whole process of bespoking? I mean, why is it important to you?
There's so many cars on the market. They're just, I call them plain Jane cars. There's no pizzazz to them. There's no personality. There's no story behind it. I love designing the car and picking out the paint, the color, the interior, the leather, the wood, where the wood's going, where the RR goes on the headrest or where it goes in the car. I put in the car. My initials are on one side, my wife's initials are on the other side. We put both of our names in the tread plates on the cars. So it's really personalized to that extent. And I think it adds personality when people come up and they say, wow, I've never seen a car that looks like this.
Yeah, it's interesting. You said something, we were at dinner last night. I've never seen a car, or you said looks like this. And when I look around your collection, or when I look around just even the Rolls Royces, there's something that every single car you showed me was unique.
Right.
And it's the same as the story with your ring. I mean, there's a story that goes with that ruby that's in your ring.
Right.
It's a personal story to you. Tell me a couple of personal stories, and well, maybe if you could share with the audience today what you said about, like, for example, the Cagney car.
Well, I got a car that was originally owned by James Cagney, but the reason why the car is so unique is it's a LeBaron body Packard. There's only 2 of those in the world. But I've had people come up to me and they say they see a classic car on the road. I take it to lunch. So I drive all these cars. So they're not just in a museum stagnant, plugged in the wall, and they don't go anywhere. I actually drive them, and I love driving them. But I'll be on the road and somebody will say, that's a car exactly like my father had. And I'm like, this car's one of one. Your father has never seen this car.
Right.
And what they really had was a Ford or a Chevrolet or something like that. That was I hate to use this terminology, but the working man's car. But they had never seen a Packard,
right,
or an old Rolls-Royce from the 20s. But they make this assumption that's exactly like the car my father had.
Right, and what Jack said last night when we were done, he says, I don't want to have a car that is like another car. I want to have the car. I want to have that.
I want to have the car that nobody else has. And somebody comes in, they say, wow, I've never seen that before in my life.
Yeah. And I think that's among the collection here. And I see that in how you're bespoking your Rolls Royces, right, particularly with the latest commission. If we could talk a little bit about what makes this Phantom, this makes the JBS the Phantom in your collection.
Okay.
It's your son's favorite car, he told me last night.
He did.
And at 12 years old, he has discerning taste. We like that.
He does.
There's 2 very unique points of inspiration from here.
Okay.
Maybe if you could talk a little bit, for example, about what was the inspiration on the interior, on the wood side.
Let me go back to, I had a visit at Pebble Beach when they first released the P8, which is what this is, because they had the P7, the Phantom 7, and the Phantom 8, and they were going to make a lot of revisions. The P7 was probably around for 15, 20 years.
Right, about 15
years.
A
lot of revisions. And I was really waiting until the new P8 came out because it's a phenomenal car. And they made a lot of revisions on the car. It's spectacular. I was at Pebble Beach and they had a purple extended wheelbase.
Some of you may remember this car.
And I think it was either cream or white interior. I forget which one.
Tailor purple exterior with an Arctic white interior.
Arctic white interior. It was absolutely a gorgeous car. It was that point I said, I probably need one of these in the collection because it was an extended wheelbase because I didn't have one. I have a regular Phantom. And I love the car. I love that it was the new P8 design and brought up to speed with everything Rolls-Royce had. So that started the what do you want it to do? And I didn't want the black outside, black interior, kind of what I call plain Jane, milquetoast, no personality car, standard.
Or a car that someone else has.
The car that somebody else has. So I was working with Larry Balkin up at Steve Foley, which is the dealer I deal with. And Larry is phenomenal to deal with.
He's great.
He's great. Great person too. But Larry's like, okay, what do you want the car to look like? And I said, well, I have all these Packards. And one of the colors that I really like is the Packard blue. And I went to him and I said, well, this isn't in the palette for Rolls-Royce. Can we do a bespoke custom color Packard blue? And he said, yeah, we can.
Do we have a shot of that Packard? Can we throw a shot of the Packard up so you can take a look at
the cabriolet?
The cabriolet with the Packard blue.
So it's in the background.
That's the Phantom. That's okay. Yeah, and it's interesting that you knew what color you wanted.
I did.
And you knew that Rolls-Royce would get that color.
Right. I worked with them on the 2015. They were great to work with then. and even more spectacular on this car. But I wanted the Packard blue.
Yeah, I was saying, can you go around and get a shot of the coupe?
And they came to me and they said, well, okay, let's talk about the interior.
Mm-hmm.
We can do the color match. And we actually sent them the formula because we had people paint Packards before. Levine Restoration does all my restoration, does a great job. They take care of the maintenance of the entire collection. And I just love the deep blue color of the Packard blue. I think it's special. And I said, that's the color I want. We sent them the formula. They took 40 attempts to match it. They finally matched it spot on.
So we got it quickly. That's good.
Yeah. Well,
well, I know it's interesting because I mean, a lot of you folks in the audience, you know that one color on one bend of metal or one piece of metal is different than how that color will read
on a flat surface. On
a flat surface, and it's you know, you weren't going to accept that. There's the It's a beautiful. If you can push up a little bit on the fender, you can see there. You get to see Jack's. That's a 23.
That's
it behind it.
That's a 23 Rolls behind it, but the shot that they have here is the 1934 Packard 12-cylinder Cabriolet. That car actually went to Pebble Beach, so it appeared there. But I love the Packard blue, and then we got to the interior, and Larry was kind of like, "Okay, what do you want to do for the interior?" We have a complete palette of different woods, and I said, "Koa wood," and he said, "Okay, that's not on our palette." And I said, that's what I'd like to have is Koa wood. And he said, okay, we're going to have to find that. And you've thrown down the gauntlet. This is a challenge.
Yeah. And I think for those of you that know about Koa wood, it's a protected wood. It's now you can get Koa wood, you can use it for furniture, but to find the proper piece of wood, we had to source an entire log for you.
You had to get an entire log.
Yeah, and that was, and it had not just, you know, it's not as if you pick up and say, send me a log of Koa wood. We had to search and wait. And when we said this isn't going to be something that happens immediately, what was your reaction?
I'm willing to wait because the car is going to be that special. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you actually have to file for the permits for the Koa wood for a particular tree. And you have to wait for the tree to fall over because it's illegal to cut them down.
Right. Yeah, they can't. They're very strict on how they can be harvested. And what was, as I said, what was very difficult, but clearly not insurmountable for our bespoke team, was finding the proper log that could be used. And yours is the first and only Phantom that's ever used Koa wood at Rolls-Royce. And yeah, so we thank you for actually breaking us into something that's new. You know, that's how we evolve and develop as a bespoke brand.
Well, Laura and myself were at the Rolls-Royce World Headquarters in Goodwood, and we were working with the people that were in charge of the specialty woods. And he asked me, he said, well, do you have an idea what kind of wood you want? I said, I want Koa. And he said, okay. He says, I've never worked with that. That's going to be a challenge. And he said, I'm looking forward to this challenge because I work with all the other woods. And there's teak and there's walnut, and not that they're good or bad. He said, I've never worked with Koa. I'm not familiar with it. We're going to have to research it. And they really did. There's a shot of the interior of the car.
You can see it. Yeah, it played out wonderfully. I had a conversation with our woodworking team, and they said, of course, it was the first time they'd done it, but they've done other things the first time before. And it was, the challenge was not just to do it, the challenge was to do it perfectly. And, you know, we're glad that you're happy with how that's come out.
When I worked with Larry up in Chicago, we went over a number of renditions on where do you want the wood. And I finally told Larry, I said, you know, Larry, this is special wood. I want as much wood in this car as we can physically get in the car.
Right.
So it's not like a little accent piece here or a little bit on an armrest or a little bit in the front dash. You know, put it everywhere.
Yeah, can we call up that photo again of it's very interesting because you guys all know, you're all familiar with the gallery and the Phantom. And, you know,
And the gallery that Rolls-Royce normally presents now is a metal.
it's metal, it's cloth, it's, so we did the feathers with the iridescent before, none of which you wanted.
No, I did not want it. I wanted this because I think it warms up the interior of the car, and the soft dove gray interior of the leather actually duplicates it from the 34 Packard also.
Right.
So we
right.
duplicated the leather from the Packard into this car also. There's another shot of the Koa.
Yeah, and you know, I want to, before we're, because we're going to go look at the car here in a second. Don't worry, guys. Where did your love of Koa come from?
Oh, for the past, since 1985, I've been going down to Hawaii, and then I got married to Laura, and she's been enjoying going down. The kids love going down to Hawaii. We've got friends that live in Hawaii, but we've collected some pieces like salad bowls, and this chair over here is
I was trying to explain why we have a rocking chair here sitting right next to us.
And we bought that probably 15, 17 years ago. But I think we both had that love for that, the richness of the wood. And it's the rarity of the wood. You can't find it anywhere.
Right.
Everybody that has looked at it, looks at it and says, it's fabulous. It's warm. It's got personality to it.
And you know, that's one of the things I love about the story of the bespoke of the car is that, you know, clearly when we first spoke, this rocking chair came up in the conversation.
It did.
And then clearly you talked about the time you and Laura had spent in Maui.
Right.
And so it, you know, every time you get in your Phantom now, you have a reminder of that peaceful.
Well, with all my cars, there's a tie into a story on something.
So we have the inspiration of the color coming from your vintage and award-winning Packard. And he has more than one Packard 12, guys. So for I think if Larry's on, I see Jim, I see you up there. For you guys that know, that's a big feat to score those, to carry that over onto the Phantom. And then you took from your personal life, your family life, the love of Koa. What I'd like to do right now is see if we have any questions. Elizabeth, do we have any questions? Anybody have any questions they'd like to ask before we take a bit closer look at the Phantom? I see Jim reaching for his camera.
Well, one of the things I know we're going to go back of that we included is the picnic camper.
Yes, I was going to hold that off for a surprise,
okay.
But while we're waiting, I see people going here. You didn't stop with the bespoke of the inside of the Phantom, so you wanted something special, and you said to me last night you wanted something that other people wouldn't have.
Correct. So
everything you put in here is to make this the JBS Collection Phantom. This is Jack Boyd Smith Jr.'s Phantom.
Yes.
So the hamper, if we can throw that back up, the picture of the hamper. The hamper is unique in the sense that, well, why don't you tell us what you want in the hamper?
Well, they match the leather of the interior of the car in the hamper, and they also match the Koa wood from the interior of the car into the hamper also. So it is unique, and then
it matches the car. Given the scarcity of our Koa wood, that will help keep your car more unique. Now, somebody has a quick question here, Jim. If we can cut to the remote and maybe get a pan here. The Phantom joins. How many cars have you collected so far? If we can get a pan of the museum here. There's
Might be 40 in this building. There's probably about 60 total.
Okay.
So we've got another building that we have other cars in. So we've only been in this building for about 2.5 months.
Okay. So as we look around this room, you can see over here, and you have 5 Rolls-Royce in total?
Yes, I think so.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we can count them here.
Count.
Yeah, and the Rolls-Royce,
of which is the 1923.
Yeah.
Springfield Pall Mall.
Taylor, if you can kind of cut backward, pan back the other way, you can see in there, there's the 23, it's a Springfield Pall Mall Ghost. That one, it's a beautiful car, and I know you have some plans for that.
Yeah, the plans I have for that is to restore it and hopefully present it to Pebble Beach and hopefully get accepted. But I wanted to restore it and make the presentation in 2023, so the car will be 100 years old.
Okay, and you know, it's incredible because 100 years later, you know, with a new Ghost that we've just brought to market, it's going to be actually just hitting stride in 2023. We're still early in the phases for that. So it'll be a nice 100-year-old anniversary partnership with a new Ghost.
It'll be neat to put that new next to a new Ghost and show what's happened in 100 years with Rolls-Royce. But I personally drive that, and it is a fabulous running car. It's beautiful to drive down the street. It snaps necks. It turns heads because people are like, I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah. If we don't have any other questions, we're going to actually take you for a little bit of a closer look at this Phantom. Okay, so why don't we head over here? I just want to show you guys a few points, a few of the external bespoke, some of the work that he's done. And what's great here is there's a few points on here, Jack, that we talk about a lot. When we're talking with our friends in the audience, we'll say, "Oh, and we can do this or we can do that." And this is a great opportunity, guys, because Jack's done it. So if we can kind of get a close up in here and you get a look at the color. This is what was interesting is, as Jack mentioned earlier, is you gave us the color code, but we had to go beyond
the formula.
We had to go beyond the formula because the formula didn't exactly lay right on the flat surfaces.
Right.
So to get that, and it did take 40 tries. It's not the most we've ever tried. It's probably not on the low end, but the point is that we don't stop until we get it exactly right.
They were great to work with to match it because we actually pulled the fender off a 34 Packard and said, "Here, this is what you got to match."
Yeah, so you've heard about us matching against flowers, against pieces of clothing, lipstick.
You had a lipstick that you matched against.
Yes, we did take delivery of a fender from a 34 Packard and color match that in Goodwood. So that was, and again, that's nothing unusual for our bespoke team, and they consider it. They actually have fun with these.
They love the challenge.
Yeah, if you look here, you can see it's very subtle details. The pin striping around with the wheel centers. And we have the coach line. And I want to show you something on the coach line because this is very important. I don't know if Laura is going to stand out here. Typically we'll have the coach line with artwork up here just above the RR monogram. Jack wanted to make sure that there was no doubt about whose Rolls-Royce Phantom this was. So the monograms on the doors, Laura Smith. I don't know if you can get a shot of Laura over there. We have to wave hi, say hello, Laura.
You got a tow truck in the background.
That's your muscle car. On Jack's door, it's JBS Jr.
Yes.
His son asked last night why his son and daughter's initials weren't on the other side, and I think Jack said, "You buy your own."
Now, what he asked was when we got to the Starliner,
right?
What they had done for me is they put my date of birth in the Celestial Starliner.
Yeah,
my son wanted to know why his wasn't there.
Let's take a quick look on the inside here. If we come around, and let's start with that. And I'm going to pull back out. I want to end on the hood. I don't know if you can get a shot up here really closely. We're not going to give the date because we're not going to give out Jack's birthday publicly. But if you look up on the Starlight headliner, let's see if you can just pan up there. This is an example of, this is not January 1st, 2003.
Which is when most of them are.
Yeah, this is the constellation over Cleveland, where you were born, on the day, which we're not going to mention.
Right.
I was like, oh, we want to mention.
So it's a day and location and year.
So, I mean, that's another thing, is that one little thing that makes this absolutely unique. No one else will. Well, I think we can safely say no one else will do this on another Phantom with the same color, with the same wood. This will always be 100% unique. Just a couple other things that I wanted to point out in here. Of course, this is one of the first extended Phantom extendeds that we've had here in the US with the Serenity seats. Serenity seats are, I mean, they're obviously very popular in Asia and they're very popular around the world. This was something that Jack really wanted. You can see in here that there's a lot of that koa wood.
I think it warms up the car.
Yeah, and I think, oh, and of course, there's also the fridge.
Yes.
Let me just pop that open here. The fridge with the stemware.
Then under the armrest, there's actually.
I'm going to try not to break that. Again, I don't know if we got a good view of that. Jack and Laura Smith. So it's all these little touches. You know, we're thrilled. We're really thrilled to show all these really small details.
And we put the curtains in the back windows in the back of the car, so you totally black out the back. And somebody wants to lay the seat down and take a nap, they can.
I have a feeling it's not going to be you. You drive your cars, right?
I drive the cars. I love driving the cars.
Yeah, you were telling me that every day you drive.
I do. Some of the time I'll drive into work in one car, and I'll take a different car to lunch, and I'll take a third car home.
Oh, that's great. I think Taylor, if you come in here and kind of get a view of the, it's a little bit difficult. You know, I'll tell you guys, it's a little bit difficult as we look at if we can switch to the remote camera. Not in person, and you know, perhaps some of you guys will have a chance to come see this in person one day. But if you look at just the warmth and the golden hue that comes out of the koa wood, you get a clear understanding as to why it was non-negotiable for Jack. That he wanted the koa wood, and he was willing to wait for it, wait for that log,
Got to wait for the tree to fall.
wait for the tree to fall, wait for the craftsmen and women in Goodwood to make sure they could get 100%. Let's see. Let me see if there's one or two other things I wanted to point in here. One of the things I love is when you open the door, when you first look in, whether you're going to the front compartment or rear compartment, it's that tread plate. And again, here, there's no ambiguity as to whose Phantom this is. And Laura, your name comes first. I think that is one of those things that it ties together throughout the car. You have a lot of personal touches.
And there's actually, if you look at the star liner, there's actually shooting stars as you drive down the street.
Right.
And somebody will be in the back seat and they'll say, "Wow, did you see the shooting star that went by?"
Yeah, it's that's one of those features that it's shooting star. I can't remember exactly when the first ones came out, but I think it was around 2015 or 16 is like a year when it became almost as iconic as the Spirit of Ecstasy on a Rolls-Royce. Right. You know, when people were bespoking a Wraith or a Ghost, you know, went from being, yeah, maybe I want a shooting star to I must have a shooting star headliner. We want the shooting star headliner. And today it is, we actually have people calling and say, "Hey, can I put one in? I didn't want one." And obviously the easiest way if you want a shooting star headliner
order
is
a new car.
Order a bespoke new car. That's the easiest way. Just to kind of come around the back here before we finish out, come around the front here. And then we're going to go to the back here in a second. I also want to point out, it's a very subtle point here, but what did you ask for here?
I really didn't make the request, if it be known.
Okay.
This was kind of, I think this was Torsten's, who's the CEO of Rolls-Royce. Yeah. I think this was kind of a gift from him, or a personalization from him, that this is solid sterling silver. So this is not plated.
Yes.
But it's a solid piece.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, obviously we just celebrated the 110th anniversary of the Spirit of Ecstasy, and Jack has his sterling silver. We've used it on other cars, but it's interesting because you can, when you look at it closely, you can see the difference.
Right.
It just has a slightly different hue.
And while the car's parked, it's actually lit from underneath, but then when the car starts to move, it can't be lit legally.
Yeah, I want to move back around to the rear. I'm going to move across here. There's one more thing I want to show you guys, and that is Jack didn't stop the bespoke process with the inside, the interior compartment, or the outside. He took it to something that, as we mentioned earlier with the hamper, you wanted to have that special touch on this Phantom, but you wanted this is not a standalone.
Correct.
Hamper. I mean, we have a lot of our clients will do a standalone, but this is tied in. So show us a little bit of how this ties in with the car.
If you look at the top, the leather matches the interior of the car. The wood is the same koa wood. This is obviously untreated because it's a cutting surface. But this is, I don't know if you get a shot of that.
Yeah, this is actually the most beautiful piece of koa right here.
Yeah.
You can really see it in here. So just so you guys know, Jack is a very successful competitor on the Concours. You have how many best in classes at Pebble Beach?
We've been to Pebble Beach 6 years, and we've badged 5 of the 6 years.
Okay, so for those of you that understand Concours competition, all of these things add to the provenance, and they add to the value and the authenticity of a vintage or classic show car. So are you setting this up to be a collector's car in the future?
I think it already is a collector's car because it's a one-off.
Exactly.
There's no question about that. It's unique from the color and the color and the extended wheelbase and the hamper. It all ties together, so it's all personalized.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we're kind of going through this, when I first came in, you know, you were very didactic about it. You're like, and this and this and this, and I want this and I want this, and it was I could see how you were putting everything together, and I think you've just done a beautiful job. So, well, we're gonna move around to the front here, and we're gonna sit back down and see if we have any more questions as we've opened everything up for you guys. Okay, before we take any questions, I know Jim, you wanted to know, where does a koa tree grow? Tell us what you know, and then I'll fill in what I've learned on our journey into koa world.
What I know of koa, I think it's more specifically the island of Maui, but I think it also comes from a couple of the other islands. But it's indigenous to the Hawaiian Islands.
Right. Yeah, and koa is it's a long growing tree. It grows in the Hawaiian Islands. Part of the, and of course, you know, you guys know I'm not a, whatever a tree expert would be, but horticultural expert on this, but because of the volcanic rock and the volcanic soil that's in Hawaii, that is where a lot of the color and character comes to. And it's just the way it grows, it has a lot of character lines in the wood, but the only place to source it is Hawaii. I mean, you can go out and probably buy koa wood to build a stool or to build a table, but to get something this big and this perfect was a adventure for us. Yeah, and I think also, Jack, let me ask you a question. You said you were working with Larry Balkin up at Steve Foley. Yep. Steve Foley Rolls-Royce, which is one of our dealers in Chicago, yep. and I've known Larry for 5 years. He's a fan, well, 6-7 years as long as I've been here. He knows the brand. He knows what Rolls-Royce can do for someone. How often do you talk? What is your relationship? What's that experience?
When we were designing the car, it was on a continuous basis, and Larry was fabulous to work with. I'd mention an idea, and he'd come up with an artist rendition. He'd send me an email, and what do you think of this? And what do you think of where the RR is on this? Or what do you think of the piping on the seats? Or what color do you want? Or do you want them in metal? Or and we went back and forth and back and forth. And it's, Larry, I like this. I don't like this. And it was really kind of drilling down. So while they were off trying to find the log, Larry and I were designing the leather interior and what the car would look like and what it would feel like.
So, and you actually visited Goodwood, right? You went in 2019?
We've been a couple times.
Right. And I know that Jack has a great reputation with the design team, the Bespoke design team, all of our colleagues over in the UK. Chris, you were asking how large a piece of wood. It's a log. And when actually, this is great, we have this size of a table here next to us. It's larger than this, obviously, but you know that when we do the veneer, we're not cutting it like this. The wood is cut like this, so it's turned. So we needed a full log of substantial length. I'm not going to tell you exactly. I don't know exactly how tall it was, but we needed one that was extremely hard to find. So it is not, we're not buying planks of koa wood. We have to buy it. And part of the reason for that is as you shave it off, as you create the veneer this way, you get much different character. That's where you get the real character. You get the lines and the burl in the wood.
Well, there's actually a type of koa called curly koa, which is even rarer than this.
Right. It's had a lot of branches growing out of it. So, Chris, I hope does that answer your question? But it is a substantial log of the tree. Okay. Do we have any more questions? Anybody? Anything that we've? Okay. I think just a couple of things before we wrap up. I mean, you know, we're in your museum here. What's the future for the JBS collection? I mean, where do you see the JBS collection 50 years from now when I'm not here?
I probably won't be here either.
I was gonna let you say that.
You know, there's a lot of collectors out there that created museums, created car collections, and they look at their kids, and their kids have no desire to take over the collection. The kids do; it's not in their wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
We brought our kids up and around the cars, and they've ridden in the cars. And I think especially my son has got a love. He was at dinner with us last night. He's got a love of the cars.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows the difference between a Ghost and a Phantom and Rolls-Royce line. And most kids don't. I think he is anticipating taking it over, the legacy, the continuation of the collection. You know, when I got involved in this, I didn't have a clear direction. I didn't have a goal. There wasn't a finish line. There wasn't when I hit 20 cars, I'm done. Or when I get this one special car, I'm done. It's a journey. And it really is. And I've had a lot of cars presented to me. I've had a lot of rare cars presented to me. And I think I've really been selective that the car has a story behind it, that maybe has some provenance behind it. It has a reason for being in the building. So when I give a tour, a personal tour, I walk by a car and I tell somebody, I have a story. Here's a story about this car. Now the car comes to life. And it's not the car your father drove around from the 1930s, 40s, or 50s.
Yeah, speaking with Jack Boyd Smith III last night.
I call him Jack Three Sticks.
Jack, as I said, for a 12-year-old, he has quite an acumen for cars. And what I found interesting was that he's passionate about. You know, when I asked him, "What's your favorite car in Dad's collection?" Right? I was thinking maybe he'd say one of the sports cars or one of the car built on a color. He said the Phantom.
The new Phantom.
The new Phantom. He said the new Phantom, and he mentioned specifically, this is the newest. It's the best technology, and it's interesting because that's a 12-year-old.
That's a 12-year-old
talking about that. And where will he be? He's the person that will be driving the future of the brand in 20, 30 years.
Right.
To me, that was very encouraging. You know, so many kids are just blinded by, and even adults are blinded by these beautiful sports cars.
You know, I've had people come up to me and say, "Well, what's your favorite car?" Or "What's your next car?" And a lot of people, they have a favorite car. And I used to use an expression, my favorite car is whatever I'm driving at the time. Because I shock a lot of people when I tell people, I drive these cars. I don't care if it's the 1923 Rolls that's behind us, or one of the old Packards. I love driving the cars down the road. We're not going real fast, but it definitely turns heads. And I've told people, whatever I'm driving down the road is my favorite. Well, I kind of turned that to another expression, which is the next one. And somebody said, "Well, what is the next one?" I said, "I don't know. Cars get presented to me and they're unique. I can't tell you how many cars I've turned down because they don't have a story. They're not unique."
If let's say, for example, like you've been doing this 8 years.
Yes.
Let's say you were just starting now, but you know a little bit more. You've learned lessons. Is there anything you change about how you collect or what you're ordering?
I don't think there's anything I'd change. We started in one building, we moved to another building, we added on to that building, then we recently bought this building. And somebody says, "Well, where's the collection going?" I said, "I'm not really sure. I enjoy the cars. I'm not doing this to buy and sell cars.
Right.
So I don't have a warehouse full that I'm selling the car. I'm not a car dealer. I buy and hoard, I collect. And I feel my position is a custodian to restore some of these cars to their former glory. And some of these cars were in awful shape when I got them,
Yeah.
and then we restore them to their greatness. And so they're around. I think that's my station in life, is to restore the cars. And I tell people, I said, I just buy a bigger building.
Well, there's plenty of space here.
Plenty of space.
Actually, Jim has a question.
Okay.
Indiana built cars,
Yep.
and that's a good one because you showed me one yesterday. I think. Did you have an Eckhart car?
We have an Elkhart,
Elkhart.
E-L-C-A-R.
Elkhart. That's what it
A
was.
lot of people don't realize that was made in Elkhart, Indiana. There are probably about 20 car companies that were made in Elkhart. I do have a list of all the car companies that were made in Indiana.
Mhm.
It's amazing how many were made in Indianapolis, because everybody thinks Detroit is where all the cars are made. Indianapolis probably at one time or another had 30 or 40 different car companies. There's probably about 20 car companies from Elkhart.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, that's interesting because as I've walked around the museum, seeing a lot of names that you just don't see.
Auburn, Cord,
Yeah, and you know, when I
Packard's an American made car.
Packers, you had a Graham.
No, we're working on with Vatican. To
Oh,
get
okay.
the Graham
that's what you
cage,
mentioned.
So they
Yeah.
own that car. but
Yeah, we won't
wanna
talk about
restore
that. We won't talk too much about that.
Okay.
Yeah, Jack's got a lot of things in work. Well, guys, before we leave, just a couple of things. First off, I'd like to thank you for having us into the museum here.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
Laura. Thank your whole team, Jessica. And I really want to thank all you guys for joining us here. It's just not often that we have a chance to do this. Obviously, you know, Elizabeth and I are sorry that we can't be here having dinner, wine, drinks with you guys. But what's most important is we're sharing the story. You know, I was talking with Larry Balkin up at Steve Foley, Rolls-Royce the other day. And just so you guys know, this is the most extensively bespoke Phantom that we've delivered to. It's the most complex commission that we've delivered in the U.S.
So it was a challenge.
Thank you for doing that for us. You know, it's
Thank you for
obviously
getting it done.
yeah. Thank you guys in Chicago for making that happen. You know, and we're glad you waited. You know, if you guys heard that, he said he first said, I need one of these in 2017. And I think that in a world today where, you know, it's all about instant gratification and everything is bespoke. You know, like you can get a bespoke pencil if you want one in the market. But what bespoke really means is that it's perfect. It's done just like you want it.
They did a great job.
Yeah,
They really did.
your inspiration on Koa and the personal meaning of that to you and Laura. Your inspiration, I love the inspiration because you have an impressive collection of Packers here. I think some of our audience are classic aficionados and vintage judges. It's beyond impressive. But the inspiration you took from that, we're proud that we could do that in Rolls-Royce. So you know, we really appreciate that. It's a team effort.
It is.
The craftsmen. You know, this is great. We've had a chance to talk with our bespoke team in Goodwood, home of Rolls-Royce. They send their best. They send their greetings.
Great guys, by the way.
Yeah, it's always great. It's very much a member of the family. We're glad to have you as a member of the family. So for those of you in the audience, all of this recording will be available in the Dropbox. We also have all the information, the press release. There is a little bit of a lag on the embargo for that. The press releases can go public as of, what was that, Elizabeth? 7 p.m. Eastern time today. We just want to give our UK guys a chance to catch up to you. We hope to see you soon. And if anyone's interested in learning a little bit more about Steve, Jack, what's your name? Jack and his collection, the JBS collection, we have a link to it in the press release. It's very impressive, even the Rolls-Royces and other makes as well. So we invite you to take a look there. Give us a call if you have any questions, and we really hope to see you guys in person soon. And perhaps one day we can come back here, Jack. And
Love to have you back.
Take a look at your next Rolls-Royce.
or my next accusation acquired car that we bring into the collection. So,
All right. Well, thanks a whole lot.
thanks.
All right. We'll see you soon. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.